Hi folks, welcome to Coffee and Colossians. You'll see my Scotland cup because Scotland, wow, beat Georgia. 12 points out of 12. But we're not here to talk about football, we're here to talk about false philosophies. Although Scotland winning ties in a little bit with what we've got to say today. We are looking at Colossians 2 verse 8, see to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy, which depends on human tradition and the elemental spiritual forces of this world rather than on Christ. Now, the key as we're looking at this, so as I said yesterday, I was so impressed by the teenagers I met in Orange and thinking about what it is to be brought up as a teenager in this world with the philosophies of this world, in this current world, the context we're in, certainly in Western society. And it was very kind of someone to write and say that, well, it works for older people as well. And that's true. But I think particularly for younger people, it really is worth grasping this. So we're going to look at a second philosophy. And that's the one, what I call hedonism, which is, the definition is behavior based on the belief that pleasure is the most important thing in life. Behavior based on the belief that pleasure is the most important thing in life. Now, we understand that, the pleasure principle. What's the pleasure principle? You eat, you drink, you work or whatever, but we live for pleasure. You live for what's a laugh. You live for what satisfies your sensations. The pleasure of good food, the pleasure of drink, and in our society, we treat sex as just a pleasure. All these things are pleasurable. Me drinking coffee, it's pleasurable. Watching Scotland this morning beat Georgia, that was very pleasurable. And none of us want pain, we do want pleasure. But the false philosophy is to make pleasure the most important thing in your life. All that matters is that you feel pleasure. If it feels good, do it. That is a philosophy of our culture, it's a philosophy of our society, and it's an absolutely killer philosophy. How will I put it this way? It's like, why does someone take drugs? It may be out of despair and so on, but you take drugs because they make you feel good. But if you're taking heroin or you're taking ice or even marijuana, and you're doing it because you feel good at the time, but the consequences of that can be really terrible. So, and it's the same, say, with sex. You say, well, if it's pleasurable, I can sleep with whoever I want, whenever I want. That just whatever gives me pleasure at any particular time. Or with food. I like a McDonald's breakfast. Well, I'm going to have a McDonald's breakfast every single day. It's something that just does so much harm to us. If we live by the pleasure principle, we end up harming others and we end up creating enormous difficulties for ourselves. We end up, as it says here, trapped. We're taken captive, enslaved. Now, what is the Christian answer to that? Well, I think it's found in, say, Psalm 16. Let me just go to Psalm 16. I've got my Bible here. And verse 11. And there's lots and lots of other verses we could look at, but I just want to keep this very straightforward. So you see, people say, this is where you're going as a Christian. You're saying we shouldn't have any pleasure. And you're saying, that Christianity is all about negating the pleasures that people have. A Scottish Presbyterian Calvinist, or a Puritan, is described as someone who is disgusted at the thought that anyone anywhere is feeling joy or having pleasure. Well, that's not what the Bible teaches. This is the important thing to grasp about this. God is the author of pleasure, the devil is the perverter of it. Remember that. God is the author of pleasure, the devil is perverter of it. So, you have made known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand. That's Psalm 16, verse 11. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand. God is the author of pleasure. The devil is the perverter. God is the one who graciously gives us all things that we may richly enjoy them. The devil is the one who takes the good things, the pleasurable things that God has given us, and by using our appetites so that we overindulge, creates a problem. So Psalm 104 talks about wine that makes glad the heart of a man, and yet drunkenness is a real problem. We mentioned sex already as a pleasure. Within the context that God gives us, out with the context that God gives us, it becomes something perverse and destructive. I would say that is true of everything. Music is a beautiful thing and a pleasure, but it can be perverted. Almost everything can be perverted, and that's what the devil seeks to do. So, when Paul says, don't get caught up in and be made captive by the philosophies of this world, this is what he's talking about. Hedonism, if you live on the pleasure principle, you will destroy yourself and you will destroy others. But if you live for Christ, then you will know pleasure beyond anything, and you will enjoy all that God gives you in this life, but in the life to come, it's eternal life, eternal beauty, eternal pleasure. So may God bless you, and hopefully see you tomorrow. What are we on today? This is Wednesday, so tomorrow hopefully see you on Thursday. Bye.